Hello and welcome to Beyond. You're watching Gravitas, the 9 p.m. show. I am your host for the evening, Aanchal Vora. Let's begin with the headlines. Indian forces kill 7 Pakistani Rangers. So far, no response from Pakistan in terms of how many killed. They say there was some firing from across the line of control. Jammu and Kashmir's Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti says that Armed Forces Special Powers Act not permanent, but dialogue not possible unless stone pelting stops. Top Indian court curbs BCCI finance. In a major setback to BCCI, the Supreme Court freezes BCCI's bank transactions and appoints an auditor to award contracts. And a yoga instructor now comes forward claiming Donald Trump had inappropriate sexual contact with her. This is the 10th such allegation against the Republican presidential candidate. Iraq's Prime Minister says march to Mosul ahead of plan. He said offensive to seize Mosul from the Islamic State is progressing ahead of what it was initially thought of. The Chief Minister of the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir, Mehbooba Mufti, has reignited a political controversy by unilaterally setting a 4-year deadline for the removal of a law that gives Indian security forces exceptional powers to combat terrorism. The move has been met with opposition from some parties. Here's a report.
As the name suggests, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, or AFSPA, gives the Indian security forces legal sanction to operate in areas that are prone to violent insurgencies such as Jammu and Kashmir. It allows them to carry out search and seizure operations, make arrests without a warrant, and, until very recently, legal immunity from prosecution for their actions. Human rights organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have condemned the act and accused successive federal governments in India of carrying out human rights abuses under the cover of the act. On Friday, Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti reiterated her desire to get the act repealed by the next elections in 2020.
क्योंकि ये हमेशा नहीं चलेगा, कुछ देर है, मगर उसमें हम लोगों को, आप लोगों को सब्र करने की जरूरत है। मैं चाहती हूँ इसको बैन करूँ, मगर इसमें मुझे आपकी ताउन की जरूरत है। हमने दस्तखत किए हैं कि जब हालात ठीक होंगे हमने यहाँ काले कवानीन भी खत्म करने हैं, मगर उसके लिए भी हमने माहौल बनाना है। मिलिटेंट्स के साथ आप डील करते हो, पर आम लोगों को तकलीफ नहीं होनी चाहिए। मुझे मालूम है आज ऐसे हालात नहीं हैं, मगर आज कल परसों साल, 1.5 साल, 2 साल, 3 साल, 4 साल के अंदर हमने तो एस्पा को हटाना है।
While the Indian government did not join issue with Mufti on a demand for revocation of AFSPA, it welcomed her other remarks, appealing the youths to desist from taking the law into their own hands and urging Pakistan to stop fomenting terrorism in order to allow peace to return to the Kashmir Valley.
No, I don't think I need to add anything to it. I think the Government of India's policy is very clear. And after all that has been said by the Government of India, there is nothing more left to be said. Certainly, India is in favor of peace, but at the same time, we cannot allow ourselves to be succumbing to terrorism. We follow an approach of zero tolerance towards terrorism. And therefore, the Pakistan would also have to ensure that it does not allow terrorism to originate from its soil.
However, a regional party was particularly critical of Mufti's statements.
Mehbooba Mufti हिंदुस्तान की फॉरेन मिनिस्टर नहीं है. Mehbooba Mufti does not speak for the country. For 104 days, there is no governance in Jammu and Kashmir. Even lawyers have shifted from Kashmir. They are rushing to Delhi.
Mufti's party has been in power in Jammu and Kashmir since 2014 after forming a coalition government with the BJP, and it has consistently raised the issue of a phased revocation of AFSPA. For its part, the federal government says the time is not appropriate for its withdrawal from Jammu and Kashmir. The Indian Home Ministry maintains that it reviews the situation from time to time, but the Jammu and Kashmir government has not submitted any formal proposal for the withdrawal of the act in the last 2 years. Bureau Report, WION.
So when Mehbooba Mufti talks about how AFSPA is not permanent and dialogue can only begin if there is peace in the valley and stone pelting has to stop if the people of Kashmir would want pellet guns to stop, then essentially is she talking about how peace begets peace and violence begets more violence. Let me introduce my panel to you. In the studio, we've got senior journalist Rahul Jalali. Thanks, sir, for being with me on yet again. We've got Colonel Shukla, an expert on strategic affairs, also a senior journalist joining us. Thanks, sir, for being with WION. Suhail Bukhari is the media consultant to the government of Jammu and Kashmir and to the Chief Minister. He's joining us from Srinagar. Thanks very much, Suhail, for being with us. Before we start discussing the topic at hand, I'd like to go to Colonel Shukla first and get a quick response on news that's come in on India claiming, BSF saying that 7 Pakistani Rangers and 1 BSF, I beg your pardon, 1 militant was killed in an offensive that came from across the border, but Pakistan has not claimed any. Colonel Shukla, why has Pakistan not claimed any? What should one make of this?
Oh, well, there is occasional spillover of violence from the line of control to what Pakistan calls the working boundary. Now, that's the boundary that is from the line of control in Akhnur, where it starts heading southwards up to about Pathankot, which is the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan considers that a disputed boundary as well. And you see a lot of firing between the BSF on the Indian side and the Rangers on the Pakistani side on that stretch of the working boundary, as Pakistan calls it. For India, of course, it's regarded as the international boundary. Now here, there was a situation where apparently a BSF Jawan was injured in a sniper attack from the Pakistani side. And then they launched apparently a coordinated fire assault in which 7 soldiers they claim to have killed on the Pakistani side, as well as 1 militant. These are claims that take place routinely on the line of control and on the working boundary. It's hard to assess, the veracity of the claim, whether it's sometimes exaggerated, as soldiers are wont to do. But certainly something has happened. There has been firing, and the spread of violence and firing to the working boundary or the international boundary south of Jammu is certainly a cause for concern.
But Colonel Shukla, the sense is that Pakistan rarely claims if the Indian soldiers take down soldiers on Pakistan's side.
Just repeat that question. The Indian soldiers claim what, Anshul?
The sense is that Pakistan does not claim its own soldiers when Indian soldiers kill them. So the sense is that Pakistan, whether it's surgical strike or whether such incidents on the international border or the line of control, that Pakistan shies away from taking claim of its own soldiers when the Indian soldiers kill them. That's the perception.
Well, that varies from time to time. There are times when both sides exaggerate the claims. For example, if a UN sort of group is visiting, then Pakistan would try to say that the Indians are resorting to aggressive, unprovoked firing, and they have killed X number of villagers and Y number of soldiers in the sector. In another time, when they're trying to show that they have established dominance over the Indian side, even when the Indian side does kill a couple of soldiers, or 3 or 4, or in this case 7 as it's claimed, the Pakistani side will try and say, they will try and downplay the Indian claims. So it depends on the tactical and operational situation that prevails at that time, both on the line of control and on the working boundary. So you can't really tell what is happening until there are actual verification measures in place, which simply don't exist as of now.
So India claims that they've killed 7, Pakistan says none. And there is, as Colonel Shukla saying, there's really no way to verify either way. If India is also claiming 7, then perhaps some evidence should be provided by the Indian side as well, if possible. Doesn't usually happen. Coming to the topic at hand, Mehbooba Mufti has spoken. Mehbooba Mufti is talking about, I can stop pellet guns, but then stop throwing stones AFSPA is not permanent. If you want dialogue, then people of the valley must support me. That's what the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir has said. Let me first go to her media advisor, Suhail Bukhari. Suhail, is the Chief Minister shying away from taking responsibility for the chaos that's unfolded in the valley? For more than 3 months, there's been unrest. The separatists continue to issue week after week calendars calling for the strike to continue.
Well, that's something that's beyond understanding. When on a day when Chief Minister has come out and spoken quite clearly to her own people in Jammu and Kashmir and everyone else concerned, whether it be in the rest of the country or even Pakistan, on what we are going through, how it pains us, and what all we should do to try and get ourselves out of not only the current crisis, but also move us further towards a peaceful era, which is there, going to be there, and it lasts for long. You posing a question, is she shying away? That really doesn't make sense to me.
But what has the Chief
but
Minister
having said
done
that, I think it's
in order to control the situation?
Well, let me tell you, she has done everything possible, because I believe, rather I do know, that you were on ground here in Kashmir and you visited various parts. You would have seen for yourself how the situation has been really bad, and there have been violent protests, clashes and whatnot. So as Chief Minister, as the head of the state, everything possible in terms of trying to ensure that normalcy returns to the lives of people, the lives and property are secured of general public. All that has been done. That's why you would see that there is a perceptible improvement in the overall situation in Kashmir Valley today. And of course, the levels of violence have definitely come down. All that could have been done has been done. And remember, while all this was on, the essentials that ought to have reached public at large in terms of the necessities, say like water, electricity, and everything, healthcare for that matter, it has been ensured.
I'd agree with you there, Suhail. Allow me to come in. I would agree with you that over the time I stayed there, things seem to be getting better. There were more people on the street, more shops were opening up, but the unrest continues. The separatists are still issuing calendars. And I also, in all honesty, Suhail, heard from several sectors there that the Chief Minister has not done enough, that she was shying away because South Kashmir was her constituency, because she'd made promises earlier and she'd spoken for the militants, and now she essentially didn't know what to say, so she wasn't there. Let me take that to Rahul Jalali, let him come in here. I've shared my experience as a reporter on the ground, but what do you make of this? Surely when the Chief Minister talks about you want dialogue, then bring peace in the valley first, support me. You want pellet guns to be banned, then stop stone pelting. So clearly that is not something that is reasonable. That is something people will agree with. But do you think the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir has done enough? Because the unrest in the valley continues.
Well, given the space that she was offered, I think she is attempted to do something now. But let me tell you something. I mean, as far as Kashmir is concerned, at least in the urban centers, the agitation which was there seems to be running out of steam. Srinagar is largely open now. People are defying the Hartal calls. Moreover, notice that there has been a letter which has gone from Saeed Gilani's office or his people to other leaders of the separatist Hurriyat, asking them for their opinion on to what next. So that clearly suggests that they don't know how long with this calendar of Hartals will continue. People have started to defy that. There have been significant incidents, significant in the sense that those people who tried to earn their livelihood and defied Hartals, they have been targeted. A couple of sumos burned, taxis basically, safari burned somewhere. These things are happening. But people are getting sick and tired of this daily grind, which seems to be leading nowhere. This is a question which has started. I think now it's given space for the mainstream parties, and I include National Conference in this, not only the Chief Minister, who were completely absent till now from the political firmament of Kashmir. It has given them a chance now to assert themselves. Mehbooba Mufti has started to say, I wouldn't take her words on AFSPA very seriously.
Why is that?
Because look at the manner in which he said that it could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So it's an unlimited, as far as time is concerned. There is no limit of 4 years.
But that's also wise, because you don't, I mean, it's also wise, because 1 year would seem a little improbable. Let me take that to...
I think that's pure rhetoric, because
let me take that
there is no commitment
Sohail wants to come in, sir. Before I go to Colonel Shukla, he's the military man. I would have liked to get him in. But Sohail, you can react briefly, and then we'll go to Colonel Shukla.
Yeah, two things that I wanted to underline. One, of course, was is in reference to what you said. You said that you were here and you heard some people say that she was shying away. Well, that I would term purely as unfortunate, because you were here rather than seeing for yourself what she has been doing and how she tried to reach out to public even in the worst of the times. You seem to be really listening to what people are saying in terms of they criticizing her, or they terming that she was shying away.
Sohail, there are two sides. Sohail, all I'm saying is,
what she has done.
Allow me to...
On second point, to which Mr. Rahul Jalali was saying that how he would take Mehbooba Mufti's remarks on AFSPA, I would like to underline one fact, that she has been absolutely honest, unlike other politicians who from the same, let me again tell you that from the same podium where she was speaking right now, we had another chief minister of ours, ex-chief minister, saying that AFSPA was only a matter of 2 to 3 days and it would go. And we do see that did not happen. So rather than making false promises and statements from the podium and befooling the people, what she has done is she has been truthful and
so she's being realistic.
And open in telling them that,
Sohail, allow me to bring in Colonel Shukla.
But yes, she is being realistic and honest to her people.
Okay, Colonel Shukla, come in, sir. What do you think Mehbooba Mufti is being here? Is she being realistic, or is this yet another promise that she's making? Nobody knows on basis of what?
Well, to start off with, just let me quickly sort of issue a word of support for Mehbooba Mufti. She has inherited an extremely difficult situation. And, whatever she was going to do, she was going to get criticized for. People are saying she's not done enough. What would they have liked her to do? Would they have liked her to crack down on the protests with a heavy hand? If that was so, the protests would only have snowballed further. More people would have got killed. More people would have got injured. So I think that she's been in an unenviable situation. And from this unenviable situation come out demands and promises like the revocation of AFSPA. Now, you've got to remember that the chief minister, the elected chief minister of Jammu and Kashmir, whether it was Omar Abdullah before her or it was Mehbooba Mufti now, they are the face of New Delhi as far as Kashmiri anger is concerned. And Kashmiri anger is always directed at them. The Hurriyat takes a populist stance. The Hurriyat says all the things that the Kashmiris want to hear. But ire and public ire is reserved for the chief minister, in this case Mehbooba Mufti. So when she gets up and makes a statement about revoking AFSPA, whether in the immediate future or slightly further down the line, she is essentially placing a low-hanging fruit before the people of Kashmir, trying to give them something that they would like, giving them a promise even though she knows that it's difficult to implement. Now, AFSPA is a low-hanging fruit as far as she's concerned. You will note that they never say, the chief ministers never say, why don't we revoke the PSA, the Public Security Act?
Right, exactly.
Most people who are picked up Kashmiri common prison and put into prison are picked up under the PSA, not under the AFSPA. The AFSPA is actually seldom used and it's become a focus of criticism, but it's the PSA which is the really repressive act. But no chief minister will ever, moot the revocation of PSA, because that would tie the hands of her own police. It would slow down her ability to react to a situation. So AFSPA essentially is a symbol.
And
well,
even
I think also you can't
ahead.
do without PSA in the current situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Given
but that's what she's talking about.
Exactly.
She's saying stop pelting stones.
Yes.
If you want me to stop.
But
ban the pellet
the
guns.
fact is that PSA is also a state subject. I mean, it comes directly under the state administration. But that apart, the point which I need to make is that, now there is space emerging for the mainstream parties to operate politically.
Right.
And that's where I find PDP is taking some sort of forward measure, because before the speech of Mehbooba Mufti, she's made speeches before too, but there was a letter given by her education minister, Naeem Akhtar, a letter to the separatists asking that they should allow education institutions to be opened, and I think that was touching the nerve of the local people.
So you look at that, and then you look at Jamaat-e-Islami Kashmir's Facebook page. You've got young kids, and Gilani, separatist Saisha Gilani, essentially is a Jamaat-e-Islami follower. That Facebook page has pictures of young students saying we want to be on a strike and we don't want to go to school.
See, I also have instead of numerous Kashmiri young students who want to go to school. So Jamaat does not control Kashmir. They do not represent Kashmir even now. I think the silent majority, and that is the pressure which is building up on the separatists. That's why things are changing in Kashmir, because the silent majority wants to move forward.
This silent majority, and I've met many people in Kashmir the time I was there. These people cannot stand up and say that they disagree with the separatists, that they would want to move on with their lives. There are many, of course, many who are very upset at the situation, who want a permanent resolution to the conflict, or at least some sort of dialogue to move forward, and more people asking for dialogue than asking for the strike. But those who are upset with the situation prevalent, this unrest, kids not going to school, shops not opening, they don't have the freedom to even stand up and say that. And that, in a sense, is being seen as a failure of the PDP government, because, whether you like it or not, the question will be asked from the Chief Minister, from the ruling government, as to why the unrest continues, why the schools haven't opened.
Well, for that you'll have to first understand as to what situation we have gone through over the last 4 months. It's not a normal situation, and even we've had agitation or violence taking place in other parts of the country, but that is unlike Jammu and Kashmir. The dynamics of the agitation, the dynamics of the violence, the political history of this state really differentiates what we are dealing with out here when you compare it with any other place in the country. But having said that, let me also tell you that the kind of improvement that one is witnessing in this situation overall has definitely something to do with the various measures that have been put in place, how things have developed from day one until today, when we are talking about the fact that there are more cars on the roads, the shops are opening up, and things that would give you a sense of semblance of peace and normalcy returning to life in Jammu and Kashmir. And let me tell you that every effort has gone in that direction to try and bring Kashmir to this point as we are witnessing it. And also the fact that not everybody is silent. If you look at the social media particularly, you would see that there is an increased number of those voices who are openly resenting and are expressing their opinion with the way things have been going on and the way they are being driven even today. So this silent majority is getting vocal by the minute, and this is definitely, if not everything about it, but at least a part of it is also to do with the kind of atmosphere that the state administration led by Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti is creating, wherein people have started to come up and talk and express their displeasure with the way things are going, and maybe that's why we even see the separatist leadership seeking public opinion as to what next and how to go about things from here on.
Let me go to Colonel Shukla here. Colonel Shukla,
again, let me reiterate the fact.
Let me go to Colonel Shukla Sohail. Let's make it a little bit more interactive. So what do you make of Mehbooba Mufti's statement when she says, if you want me to ban pellet guns, if that has to stop, then stone pelting has to stop as well. If you want dialogue, then you've got to create conditions for dialogue. I mean, that Delhi should certainly welcome it.
Delhi is actually, in my opinion, behind or at the root of the problem. The anger that you're seeing on the streets, the anger that spilt out after Burhan Wani was killed, was not a manifestation of the killing of Burhan Wani. It was the manifestation of an overall sense of directionlessness of their struggle, of the fact that New Delhi was not engaging the Kashmiri people in dialogue. There was very little that the state government could actually do about it. They were sort of hapless victims in a way. The anger is still directed at New Delhi, at symbols of New Delhi, including the central police forces and so on, and the J&K police, which is believed to be furthering New Delhi's agenda. To tamp down on the feelings, you know, if you just tire out the Kashmiri people who are engaging in this violence and life comes back to normal, you would not have solved the problem. Because after some time, anger would replenish again, people would, you know, get over their tiredness, and again next year you would have a recurrence of the violence.
But
what
Colonel
you
Shukla,
need is to address the core dispute. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but because if you're raising that point, the information that I picked up when I was interacting with a range of officials in the Valley of Kashmir, my impression is that the idea of India's law enforcement agencies is to tire the people out. They want to break them. They don't want them to use this as a tool.
You know, if I was doing a law enforcement job, my current aim would be, my immediate aim would be tire out the agitation. But when you're looking at it from a broader perspective, as a political perspective, you will realize that tamping down the agitation temporarily through tiring them down does not solve the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is that the common Kashmiri needs to be engaged by New Delhi in some kind of dialogue. As long as there is that feeling that we are talking, we are engaging, we are in conversation with New Delhi, you will not have this kind of bubbling over of violence and anger. This only happens when you create a feeling for the Kashmiris that they are completely being ignored, their wishes are being ignored, and their feelings are being overridden.
Absolutely.
All that New Delhi needs to do really is to cultivate some form of back channel to initiate a dialogue.
And there is that thought as well. While I completely agree with your assessment on what New Delhi is doing wrong, that essentially is that there is no talk of the talk. There's not even talk of the talks, and I think that clearly upsets many people in Kashmir. But let me just finish my sentence, sir, I'll come to you. But there is also a sense that I've picked up from there and what one is learning, that New Delhi wants to engage with the youth of what it's called its integral part, Kashmir.
Well, I think you've got to read what Mehbooba Mufti said today. She talked of the stone pelting in context of a dialogue, and she has made a condition that if stone pelting is withdrawn, the dialogue process will start. And I think the dialogue process essentially means you bring those people on the table who have not sat on the table or who are reluctant to sit on the table with you. Now, all this is now moving towards that direction. I think the element of tiredness, which we say, which has crept in Kashmir, is leading towards an eventful goal, which would be restart of the dialogue process.
Right.
I think what we've got to now look at, not so much as Kashmir, but as far as what is New Delhi going to do about this changing circumstances in Kashmir. And this is where Mehbooba Mufti can play a crucial role. Can she be a facilitator, though she's talked about it?
And I think has she...
No, can she be a facilitator?
Hasn't she started doing that?
She has started talking about it. Yes. But
she's trying to create the atmosphere.
Can she further this process and become a facilitator of a dialogue process taking place?
It depends on how the people of Kashmir also react.
Well, I think the people of Kashmir are ready for some initiative from the center.
Right.
I have got that kind of message from Kashmir. But someone needs to push it. And can she be the catalyst for this dialogue to start? Moreover, I think one important essential element is that you need to go back, and this is what Mehbooba has also talked about, go back to what Prime Minister Vajpayee had stated.
I think a lot of people in
I think-
Kashmir speak of that, but a lot of people
Yes.
in Kashmir remember Atal Bihari Vajpayee
Yes, he's
very fondly.
probably one of the most popular
exactly,
figures,
because
yes.
talk started, and when a
Yes.
BJP Prime Minister came
I think the expectation of Kashmiris from Prime Minister Modi is the same as Prime Minister
Let me
Vajpayee.
ask, I think Suhail Bukhari wants to come in. Suhail, you can react. I believe you had a point or two to make, but also answer my question. Instead of India talking to Pakistan, shouldn't India be talking to the people of, shouldn't New Delhi, I'll rephrase, shouldn't New Delhi be talking to the people of Kashmir?
Well, before I answer that, let me just quickly refer to the points that were made earlier by Ajay and, of course, Rahulji as well. One very important aspect of the current government is that probably for the first time in the political history out here, in the recent times at least, you've seen a coalition coming together on the basis of a written document, and that document putting it explicitly that the coalition, the government would ensure that there's facilitation vis-a-vis dialogue so that the political issue per se of Kashmir is resolved. That is unprecedented, and we remain committed to that, because that is the whole idea of coming together to form that coalition and not necessarily to form the government, because it has been said many a times that the numbers per se could have come from anywhere, but the whole idea of coming together with BJP or PDP was to ensure that everybody is on board so that a road is worked on and it's paved for resolution. And at no point has anybody shied away, particularly Mehbooba Mufti has made it amply clear many a times that what we are dealing with right now is not the manifestation of just one encounter wherein Burhan Wani was killed, but it is because of the crisis and the trust deficit that exists because of the successive problems, mishandlings and promises being made and not delivered on by the political leadership. So this time around also the focus is that there are two aspects. One is to deal with the crisis per se, ensure that the law and order management is taking place, but that is not the final aim. The aim is, while this is contained, you also have to ensure that it's not only about crisis management, but it is about working on the resolution of the problem.
Let me
try
take
to
that to
engage
Colonel
everyone, bring
Shukla.
them on board, so that tomorrow you do not have a recycling of this issue as well.
Colonel Shukla, do you think being BJP's partner has made things tougher for the PDP, and the kind of statements that we've been hearing from the BJP on Sainik Colony, Pandit Colony and all of that has made Mehbooba Mufti's life much tougher?
The BJP-PDP alliance, on the face of it, has a sort of a noble and a laudable aim, which is that it gives the central government a stake in the stability and viability of the Kashmir government, of the J&K government, and also an incentive to solve the problem and move towards resolution, as Suhail was mentioning. But in fact, the way that alliance has played out on the ground has served the opposite aim. Jammu and Kashmir is heavily polarized between Kashmir, which is of course a strongly pro-Muslim and Muslim majority area, and Jammu, which has become really hardline and Hindu as far as its politics goes. The BJP has most of its stakes in the Jammu region. It has not done anything overtly to support the Mehbooba Mufti government, whether in terms of initiating dialogue, whether in terms of reaching out to the agitators and so on. So I think the political structure which exists and the potential that it has is simply not being realized. The BJP is simply not coming to the help of its alliance partner, because its politics on the rest of India is a politics of a hardline stance towards Pakistan and the problem in Kashmir. So the BJP is really caught between its politics vis-a-vis Kashmir on the one hand and its politics vis-a-vis the rest of India on the other.
All right, let me get a final word. We've got about 2 minutes. How soon do you think the unrest will end in Kashmir? When will the schools open, normal life begin? And what does that, let me ask you, what does that depend on?
Well, I think it would happen soon. I can't give a time frame to it, because if you get the kind of message which is coming from Kashmir, there is a yearning now among Kashmiris for the schools to open and things to come back to some semblance of normalcy. But that apart, the entire agitation is not dead. I wouldn't say
Right.
that, because it has potential to come to rise again tomorrow. In fact, if you look at rural Kashmir, especially South Kashmir, things are not as normal as they are in the city. That change hasn't taken place as it has in Srinagar. So you've got to move towards that. I think a prerequisite for this is a reach out from New Delhi towards the young of Kashmir,
Right.
Involving them in a dialogue process. I think this whole emphasis that dialogue has only got to be Hurriyat has to be given up.
Or, you know, bilateral between India and Pakistan?
Well, I think India-Pakistan has to be kept separate from New Delhi and Srinagar.
Kashmir. Exactly. Let me go to Colonel Shukla.
It's time
and then we
go to
give
New
Suhail
Delhi and
Bukhari the
Srinagar.
final word. Suhail, I beg your pardon. Colonel Shukla, what do you think needs to happen for the unrest to end, for schools to open? What needs to be done by Srinagar, by New Delhi?
Well, my assessment would be that the agitation would wind down for now on its own, but it would be a temporary winding down. It would not be an end to the agitation, but a temporary suspension of the agitation until resentment mounts again, another trigger like the killer of Burhan Wani presents itself, and then we're back to where we began from. It is my hope that before that happens, the government takes advantage of this agitation winding down. It obviously could not reach out to the Kashmiri people when they were in full agitation mode, but when the agitation winds down, it is my hope that there will be an outreach to the young, to the elected government, to civil society, to the Hurriyat itself. All sections in Kashmir need to be addressed. And I think that as long as there is a certain dialogue going on and a feeling going on, and a feeling being created in Kashmir that the people are being heard, that will serve as a disincentive for the bubbling up of the agitation once again.
All right. So, Suhail, final word to you. What do you think needs to be done by the central government and the state government to ensure that the unrest comes to an end, not just in Srinagar, but also in areas like Anantnag and Taral in South Kashmir?
I would, like to pick up from what Mehbooba Mufti had to say this morning in Srinagar while she was addressing one and all, and that is give peace a chance, that is for the public at large in Jammu and Kashmir, shun violence, and we promise that we would, really fulfill the promise of being the facilitators of dialogue and reconciliation, whether it be, with New Delhi reaching out to the public at large out here, or even trying to, really persuade and convince even New Delhi to ensure that there is a continuous engagement with Pakistan as well. At every level, we would continue to be facilitators for peace and reconciliation to come back towards the resolution of Jammu and Kashmir. But for that also, we definitely require great help from the people at large in Jammu and Kashmir. That's the appeal that Mehbooba Mufti has made, and I think that is going to be very crucial.
So is Mehbooba Mufti making all the right noises in order to bring Kashmir back to what's Kashmir's normal? It's certainly not normal.
I think she's beginning to, but she's got to
I'm just
do
wrapping
much
up, sir.
more.
I'm wrapping up. My panelists say that strengthen the mainstream parties. That's what New Delhi should be doing. Start dialogue, at least the talk of the dialogue, and reach out to the young of Kashmir. I think that's something that my panelists have offered here in this discussion at WION. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining WION this evening. We'd like to invite you more often and hope that you continue to join us. Let's take a break. After the break, we talk about how India's top court is pulling up the cricket body BCCI.